A ruthless CEO enters a marriage of convenience to secure his empire, only to discover his new wife holds secrets that could destroy everything. Is love his greatest risk? The night skyline of Manhattan glittered through the vast windows of Nathaniel Sinclair's penthouse. He stood at the edge of the room, his sharp blue eyes fixed on the bustling city below. Dressed in a perfectly tailored charcoal suit, he exuded power and control, traits that had made him one of the most feared and respected CEOs in New York. But tonight, his control was slipping. Victor Sinclair, his father, sat in the armchair by the fireplace, a cigar smoldering between his fingers. His voice was firm, carrying the weight of a final decision. "You're getting married, Nathaniel," Victor declared, his tone leaving no room for argument. Nathaniel turned slowly, his gaze icy. "I don't have time for this nonsense. My business is on the brink of the biggest merger of the decade, and you wanted to waste time playing house." Victor exhaled a plume of smoke. "That merger won't matter if you lose control of the company. The board is growing restless. They don't trust a single, reckless billionaire to lead the Sinclair empire. You need a wife, stability, a family man image." Nathaniel's jaw tightened. "I don't believe in marriage." "It's not about love," Victor shot back. "It's about legacy. Your grandfather's will is clear. If you're not married by your 35th birthday, the board has the right to vote on your leadership." Stephen Parker, one of the board members, has been pushing the idea that the company needs someone more relatable, a family man. Nathaniel clenched his fists, fury burning beneath his calm exterior. Stephen Parker, ambitious and manipulative, always positioning himself as a more stable leader. Some of the board admired his approach, but most remained loyal to Nathaniel, as long as he projected stability. Victor leaned forward, eyes sharp. "Stephen's been subtly suggesting that the company needs new leadership. Your marriage could eliminate any doubts about your stability." Nathaniel's mind raced. He couldn't lose control of the empire he had built. Finally, he gave a curt nod. "Fine, but this is purely business. No emotions. No attachments." Victor smirked. "You can't afford emotions. Just keep her happy enough to avoid a scandal." A week later, Nathaniel found himself standing at the altar in a grand hall filled with polished marble and flickering candlelight. The room was full of important business associates and socialites, whispering about the billionaire's sudden marriage. When the doors opened, Ava Monroe stepped in, and the room fell silent. She was breathtaking, tall and poised, her dark hair cascading in elegant waves over her bare shoulders. The simple white gown hugged her figure perfectly, and her emerald green eyes held a calm, unreadable expression. As she approached, Nathaniel couldn't help but feel a strange unease. He had seen countless beautiful women before, but something about her felt different, like she was playing a part in a script he didn't know. Ava met his gaze, her lips curving into a polite, controlled smile. As they exchanged vows, Nathaniel couldn't shake the feeling that he was making a dangerous deal. When the officiant announced them husband and wife, he leaned in, pressing a quick, calculated kiss to her lips. Nothing passionate, just enough to appear convincing. Ava's smile didn't falter, but her eyes glinted with something he couldn't decipher. That evening, back at the penthouse, Nathaniel poured himself a glass of whiskey, barely acknowledging Ava as she stood by the large windows, looking out at the city lights. "You can use the guest room," he said coldly. "This marriage is for appearances. I don't need complications." Ava turned, her expression calm. "I understand. I have no interest in complicating your life, Mr. Sinclair." He didn't like how composed she sounded, as if she was perfectly comfortable with the situation. Most women he knew would have at least shown some reaction: anger, hurt, even confusion. But Ava remained a mystery. He narrowed his eyes. "Why did you agree to this? Money? Status?" Ava met his gaze evenly. "You don't need to worry about my reasons. I'll play my part. You keep your empire. That's all that matters." Nathaniel smirked, intrigued despite himself. "Good. As long as we're clear, we'll maintain the illusion in public. In private, we're strangers." Ava nodded without hesitation. "Perfectly fine with me." Nathaniel couldn't shake the unsettling feeling in his chest. As he watched Ava walk gracefully down the hall to the guest room, he took a long sip of his whiskey, wondering what kind of woman agreed to marry a ruthless billionaire without batting an eye. But as he lay in bed that night, his thoughts wouldn't settle. There was something about Ava Monroe, something in the way she held herself, that made him question whether this deal was as simple as it seemed. And in the darkness, a single thought surfaced, a whisper in the back of his mind. What if Ava Monroe wasn't the compliant, docile wife he had been promised? What if she had an agenda of her own? The first week of marriage passed with barely a word exchanged between Nathaniel and Ava. Despite sharing the penthouse, they lived like distant roommates. Nathaniel kept to his office or the gym, while Ava spent her time reading in the library or wandering the balcony gardens. Nathaniel appreciated the lack of interference. Ava didn't pry into his business, didn't ask questions, and most importantly, didn't disrupt his routine. Yet, something about her unspoken presence unnerved him. One evening, as he was finishing a conference call in his office, he caught a glimpse of Ava through the glass doors. She was arranging a vase of lilies on the dining table, her movements calm and graceful. The simple elegance of the scene was so unlike the typical chaos in his life that it almost seemed surreal. His phone buzzed, an incoming call from Julian Cross, his legal advisor and oldest friend. Nathaniel picked up, still watching Ava through the glass. Still alive? Julian's voice was laced with sarcasm. Married life hasn't killed you yet. Nathaniel scoffed. It's like living with a ghost. She doesn't speak unless necessary. No complaints, no demands. It's unsettling. Julian laughed. You're the one who wanted a wife with no strings attached. You got it. What's the problem? Nathaniel hesitated. Nothing. Just something feels off. I can't figure her out. Julian's tone grew serious. Look, I dug into her background as you asked. Ava Monroe, quiet life, no scandals, no debt. Parents deceased, raised by an aunt who passed away 2 years ago. Worked as a gallery curator downtown. Nothing suspicious. She's exactly what she appears to be. Nathaniel didn't respond, his mind still processing. After hanging up, he found himself drawn to the dining area. Ava had just finished setting the table and was folding the last napkin when she noticed him. I didn't realize you'd be home for dinner, she said simply. Nathaniel raised an eyebrow. You're setting the table for both of us? Ava gave a small, almost apologetic smile. I thought it might look odd if we're never seen having dinner together. The staff might notice. I figured it would be better to maintain appearances. He couldn't argue with that logic. Reluctantly, he took a seat. Ava served the food herself, a simple pasta dish with grilled vegetables. Nathaniel eyed it skeptically. You cook? She nodded. I enjoy it. Besides, the chef was out tonight. They ate mostly in silence. Nathaniel couldn't help but watch her, noting how her movements were precise and purposeful. She ate slowly, savoring each bite, as if used to enjoying small pleasures. He realized that despite her composed exterior, she seemed almost lonely. Breaking the silence, he asked, Why did you agree to this marriage? Ava looked at him calmly, not flustered by the direct question. Why did you? He wasn't sure why he answered honestly. I had no choice. My father made it clear, get married or risk losing the company. Some board members see me as unstable, too focused on work, not grounded enough. One in particular, Stephen Parker, has been pushing the idea that the company needs someone more relatable. A family man. Ava tilted her head, curiosity flickering in her eyes. And you're not. Nathaniel gave a bitter laugh. I've spent my life proving I'm the best. Never had time for relationships. I thought power and success were enough. Turns out, appearances matter to the board. Ava nodded thoughtfully. So, you chose practicality. That makes sense. He eyed her suspiciously. You're avoiding my question. Why did you agree? She set down her fork, her face calm. Because I needed a way out. This arrangement offered stability. You get your inheritance, and your company stays intact. I get a place to breathe without looking over my shoulder. That answer piqued his curiosity. Looking over your shoulder? Who are you running from? For the first time, he saw a crack in her composure. Ava's gaze dropped to her plate. It's not important. I'm not a threat to you, if that's what you're worried about. Nathaniel didn't press, but his instincts told him there was more to her story. The next morning, as Nathaniel prepared to leave for work, he noticed Ava on the balcony, her hair loose and flowing in the morning breeze. He hesitated before approaching. "You like it out here?" he asked gruffly. Ava glanced at him, a hint of a smile softening her features. "It's peaceful. I've never lived anywhere this high up before. It's like floating above the world." Nathaniel found himself intrigued despite his better judgment. "I thought you came from a wealthy family." She shook her head. "That's just the public version. In reality, I grew up in a cramped apartment. My aunt raised me after my parents died. She did her best, but life wasn't easy." Something about her tone made him pause. It was the first personal detail she'd shared, and it didn't match the polished, poised woman he had married. Before he could ask more, his phone rang. Julian again. Nathaniel stepped back inside to take the call. "You won't believe this," Julian said, his voice tense. "I just found something odd in Ava's background. A few years ago, there was a police report. Assault charges filed and then dropped. The man was a prominent investor. Name was Richard Evans." Nathaniel's eyes narrowed. "And the charges vanished, but Evans left the country suddenly. No details. It just doesn't add up." As he glanced back at Ava through the glass, Nathaniel felt a chill. Who exactly had he married? And why did he feel that this seemingly perfect woman was hiding something dark and dangerous? His grip tightened on his phone. If Ava Monroe was a threat to his reputation or his company, he would find out. He always did. But a strange sensation gnawed at him. A gut feeling that the truth might be far more complicated than he wanted to believe. Nathaniel couldn't shake the nagging feeling in his gut. Ava Monroe was hiding something big. As he rode the elevator down to his office, Julian's words echoed in his mind. Assault charges filed and then dropped. The man left the country suddenly. He knew he had to tread carefully. Publicly confronting Ava could lead to a scandal, and the last thing he needed was giving Stephen Parker ammunition to question his judgment. As he walked through the bustling office, his assistant, Claire, handed him a folder. "The quarterly reports, sir," and Stephen Parker requested a meeting later today. Nathaniel's jaw tightened. What does he want now? Claire hesitated. It didn't specify, but he mentioned it was regarding the board's confidence moving forward. Nathaniel nodded, dismissing her with a wave. Stephen was clearly digging for weaknesses, anything to paint Nathaniel as unstable or distracted. He couldn't afford to show cracks. That evening, Nathaniel arrived back at the penthouse, mind still preoccupied with the day's challenges. To his surprise, he found Ava in the living room, a canvas propped up on an easel, delicate brushstrokes forming the outline of a cityscape. He hadn't seen her paint before. Her focus was intense, hands moving gracefully as colors blended into the skyline. For a moment, he almost admired her. "You're an artist?" he asked, his voice breaking the quiet. Ava didn't startle, just continued painting. "It's something I used to do. I guess I'm trying to find a bit of that version of me again." Nathaniel leaned against the doorway, intrigued despite himself. "Why did you stop?" She hesitated. Life got complicated. He wanted to ask more, but the memory of Julian's call stopped him. "I heard something interesting today," he said, testing her reaction, "about a man named Richard Evans, an investor who vanished a few years ago." Ava's hand stilled on the canvas. She turned, eyes guarded. "What about him?" "There were assault charges filed against you, but they disappeared and so did he." "Care to explain?" Ava's jaw tightened, and for the first time, Nathaniel saw a genuine fear flicker in her eyes. "He was my fiancé," she said quietly, "before he became something else." "Meaning?" Nathaniel pressed. Ava looked away, as if gathering the strength to speak. "At first, he was charming, attentive. I thought we'd build a life together. But after we got engaged, he changed, became controlling, paranoid. It escalated to violence. One night, he attacked me. I fought back. The police were involved, but his family had influence. The charges vanished, and he fled the country." Nathaniel's skepticism didn't fade. "Why didn't you go public? Expose him?" Her laugh was bitter. "Expose him? You think the world cares about a girl from a poor background accusing a wealthy investor?" His lawyers made sure no one believed me. They painted me as unstable, desperate for money. After that, I stopped fighting. I moved on. Nathaniel wanted to believe her, but his instincts warned him to stay cautious. How do I know you're telling the truth? Ava met his gaze, her eyes hard. You don't, but you're free to investigate. You'll find that I have nothing to gain from lying to you. I never wanted this marriage. Your father approached me. I was just trying to survive. Nathaniel studied her for a moment, weighing her words. She seemed genuine, but part of him still suspected manipulation. He wasn't used to not being in control, and Ava challenged that with every word. The next morning, Nathaniel instructed Julian to dig deeper into Richard Evans' disappearance. As the day unfolded, he found himself distracted, replaying Ava's words. He didn't want to admit it, but part of him wanted to believe her. During lunch, Stephen Parker made his move. He appeared at Nathaniel's office door, flashing his practiced politician smile. "Got a minute?" Stephen asked, stepping in without waiting for permission. Nathaniel didn't look up from his papers. "Make it quick." Stephen took a seat, crossing one leg over the other. "Word around the board is that your marriage is a sham. People are starting to wonder if you've actually changed, or if this whole arrangement is just a calculated move." Nathaniel's eyes narrowed. "Careful, Stephen. Spreading rumors can backfire." Stephen smirked. "You know the board wants stability. Your father's decision to force your hand, brilliant. But if the marriage is fake and that gets out, let's just say they'll reconsider who's best suited to lead Sinclair Enterprises." Nathaniel leaned back, feigning calm. "You'd love that, wouldn't you? But as long as the company remains profitable and the merger goes through, no one cares about my personal life." Stephen stood, adjusting his tie. "Maybe, but appearances matter. Just keep that in mind." As Stephen left, Nathaniel's phone buzzed. It was Julian. I dug deeper into Evans. "Rumor has it he's back in the States. I'm still confirming, but if he resurfaces, things could get complicated. If his family wants revenge, they might come after Ava or try to discredit her publicly." Nathaniel cursed under his breath. He glanced at the living room, where Ava was quietly sketching, unaware of the looming danger. He couldn't afford a scandal. Not now. Not when Stephen was circling like a vulture. If Ava's past blew up in the media, it wouldn't just destroy her, it would destroy him. Taking a deep breath, he knew he had to make a choice. Trust Ava and protect her, or cut his losses before her past swallowed him whole. But as he looked at her, something about her quiet determination made him hesitate. For the first time in years, he wondered if protecting someone might actually be worth the risk. That evening, Nathaniel couldn't focus on his work. The implications of Stephen and Richard Evans working together were dangerous, not just for his business, but for Ava as well. If Stephen got his hands on those recordings, he could easily spin the story to make Ava look like the manipulator and Nathaniel the fool. His phone buzzed, and Julian's name flashed on the screen. "Call me ASAP. We have a problem." Nathaniel dialed immediately. "Talk." Julian's voice was tense. Stephen made his move. "He's filed a formal request for an emergency board meeting, stating that your marriage is a fraud. He's claiming the live stream was staged and that the company's image is in jeopardy under your leadership." Nathaniel clenched his jaw. "On what grounds?" "Anonymous tip to the board. Someone leaked a video of you and Ava arriving separately to the wedding venue. Stephen's painting it as proof that the marriage was arranged and not a genuine relationship." Nathaniel felt a knot in his stomach. "What time is the meeting?" 2 hours. Be prepared to counter his claims. If Stephen gets enough support, they might push for a leadership vote today." Nathaniel hung up, cursing under his breath. As he moved to get dressed, Ava appeared in the doorway, her expression anxious. "I heard you on the phone. What's happening?" He hesitated. "Stephen is pushing to remove me. He's calling the marriage a sham, using our separate arrival as evidence. The board meeting is in 2 hours." Ava's face fell. "I didn't know we were being watched." He softened slightly, seeing her distress. "It's not your fault. Stephen's been planning this from the start. I underestimated how far he'd go." Ava took a deep breath, her eyes steely. "What can I do to help?" Nathaniel looked at her, appreciating her resolve. "We need to prove that despite how it started, we're genuinely committed. If the board believes we're a real couple, Stephen's plan falls apart. Ava nodded. Then we'll convince them. Whatever it takes. The boardroom was packed when Nathaniel and Ava walked in, hand in hand. Stephen stood near the projector screen, his smug expression barely concealed. The tension in the room was palpable as Nathaniel took his seat at the head of the table. Stephen didn't waste time. Thank you all for coming. I'm sure you're aware of the recent media fiasco regarding Mr. Sinclair's marriage. The video of them arriving separately at the wedding venue has raised serious concerns about the legitimacy of this union. If Mr. Sinclair has staged a marriage to maintain control of Sinclair Enterprises, it's a breach of ethics and a sign of unstable leadership. Nathaniel remained calm, even as the whispers around the room grew louder. When Stephen finished, he addressed the board. Stephen's claim is based on a single piece of footage that doesn't tell the full story. Yes, Ava and I arrived separately that day. Why? Because my father arranged the ceremony and kept us apart before the vows. He believed in tradition, the bride and groom not seeing each other before the wedding. Stephen conveniently left that part out. Stephen's confident smile faltered. That's a convenient excuse, Nathaniel. Julian, who had joined as a legal advisor, spoke up. It's not just an excuse. Here's a statement from Victor Sinclair, verifying his involvement in the ceremony arrangements. He handed the printed statement to the board members, who murmured in surprise. Stephen looked visibly rattled. Nathaniel pressed on. My marriage to Ava was unconventional, yes, but it's real. Despite the challenges, we've committed to each other. Stephen is attempting to undermine my leadership by twisting personal matters. But I urge you to see this for what it is, a power play. One of the senior board members, Mrs. Callahan, spoke up. Mr. Sinclair, how do you address the concerns regarding public perception? If the media continues to question your marriage, it could harm the company's image. Ava squeezed Nathaniel's hand, and he nodded at her, giving her the floor. Ava spoke with quiet determination. When Nathaniel and I married, it wasn't out of love, it was out of necessity. We both had our reasons, and we didn't expect anything more. But as time passed, we realized that what started as a convenience grew into something real. I'm not ashamed of how it began, because it's how we chose to move forward that matters. Her honesty struck a chord, and some of the board members seemed to relax, considering her words. Nathaniel added, Stephen's approach to leadership is to capitalize on chaos. My approach is to confront problems head-on. Ava and I are building a life together, and yes, it's not perfect, but my commitment to this company and to her is unwavering. The room fell silent. Stephen opened his mouth to retort, but Mrs. Callahan cut him off. I think we've heard enough. Personal matters aside, the company remains stable under Mr. Sinclair's leadership. If there's no concrete evidence of misconduct, I see no reason to question his position. The vote was taken, and the majority sided with Nathaniel. Stephen's face darkened as he realized his plan had failed. Back at the penthouse, Nathaniel and Ava sat on the balcony, finally able to breathe. The city lights glowed below them, and for once, the tension was gone. Nathaniel reached for her hand, intertwining their fingers. It's over. You're safe now. Ava looked at him, a softness in her eyes. I didn't think you'd risk everything for me. He turned to face her, his thumb brushing over her knuckles. I told you before, I don't abandon what's mine. But it's more than that. Somewhere along the way, protecting you stopped being a duty. It became necessary. I didn't realize how much you meant to me until I almost lost you. Ava's breath hitched. Are you saying? He leaned in, his lips brushing hers softly. When he pulled back, his voice was gentle. I'm saying I want more than just a business arrangement. I want us to be real. Tears shimmered in her eyes, but they were happy ones. You gave me a chance to be more than just someone's victim. You made me feel safe. Nathaniel cupped her face, wiping away a stray tear. You made me feel human. I didn't realize how empty my life was until you walked in. Now, I can't imagine it without you. They kissed again, deeper this time, the weight of everything finally lifting. But just as they embraced, Nathaniel's phone buzzed. It was Julian. Nathaniel, I just got word. Richard Evans is at the company lobby. He's demanding to see you and threatening to go to the press directly. Nathaniel's eyes narrowed, and the softness of the moment vanished. It's time to end this, once and for all. The next morning, Nathaniel arrived at his office to find Julian waiting at the entrance, his expression tense. "He's here," Julian whispered. "Richard Evans managed to get past the front desk and is demanding to see you. Security is holding him in the conference room." Nathaniel nodded, his jaw tight. "Good. Let him stew. I need a few minutes to plan our approach." Julian followed Nathaniel into his office. "Stephen's been suspiciously quiet since the board meeting. I have a feeling he's the one who tipped Evans off about your marriage. If Evans makes a scene, it could still damage your reputation." Nathaniel glanced at his phone. No new messages from Stephen. He took a deep breath. Evans wants leverage. Let's see how desperate he's become. Nathaniel entered the conference room, his posture rigid, eyes cold. Evans sat at the far end, his once pristine suit now rumpled and worn. Despite his unkempt appearance, his eyes still held that familiar arrogance. Well, Evans sneered. The mighty Nathaniel Sinclair finally shows up. Nathaniel remained calm. "You're trespassing on private property. I suggest you make this quick." Evans scoffed. "Cut the threats. I'm not leaving until I get what I deserve." Nathaniel raised an eyebrow. "And what exactly do you think you deserve?" Evans leaned forward, his tone vicious. "Compensation. You ruined my reputation with those recordings. I've got nothing left. My family's cut me off, and investors are pulling out of my projects. You need to fix this." Nathaniel's lips curved into a smirk. "You destroyed yourself when you assaulted Ava and tried to manipulate the situation. The recordings simply revealed the truth." Evans slammed his fist on the table. "You think you could just bury me? I'll go to the press. Tell them your wife blackmailed me. Stage the whole thing. They'll believe me. You know how quickly public opinion turns." Nathaniel stepped closer, his voice low and lethal. "You're assuming I'll let you walk out of here. I could press charges right now for trespassing, harassment, and extortion. Do you really want to test me?" Evans hesitated, clearly unprepared for Nathaniel's unwavering composure. Just then, Julian entered with his phone, playing a recording of Stephen's voice. "Evans, just get to the office. Make a scene. We'll make Nathaniel look like a reckless fool who married a fraud. If the media picks it up, I'll handle the board." Evans' face went pale. "What is that?" Nathaniel smiled coldly. "Insurance. You see, Stephen isn't as subtle as he thinks. He's been manipulating you from the start. If you're smart, you'll realize you've been used as a pawn. Stephen wanted to take me down, and he didn't care if you got destroyed in the process." Evan's confidence crumbled. "He promised me compensation. Said once you were out, he'd help me rebuild." Nathaniel shook his head. "Stephen's only priority is taking control of Sinclair Enterprises. He'll discard you the moment you're no longer useful. The board already knows about your little alliance. Your only chance of staying out of jail is to publicly admit that Stephen orchestrated this attack on my reputation." Evans swallowed hard. "And if I do that, I'll ensure the media knows you were manipulated. Your story might gain some sympathy. Refuse, and I'll bury you, both legally and publicly." Evans glanced around, his bravado finally gone. "Fine, I'll testify. Just get me out of this mess." Nathaniel nodded to Julian, who left the room to prepare the statement. Nathaniel leaned over the table, his voice a whisper. "You tried to destroy my wife. I will never forget that. But this time, I'll use you to take down Stephen. Consider yourself lucky I'm giving you this chance." That evening, Nathaniel and Ava sat in the penthouse, exhaustion etched into their faces. Ava looked at him cautiously. "Is it really over?" Nathaniel nodded. "Evans is done. He'll go public tomorrow, admitting the whole setup. Once Stephen's involvement is confirmed, the board will have no choice but to remove him." Ava bit her lip. "I still can't believe Stephen would go this far." Nathaniel sighed. "Power makes people ruthless. He saw an opportunity to exploit our marriage and used Evans as a weapon. I should have anticipated it." Ava touched his arm gently. "You can't control everything. Sometimes people show their true colors too late." Nathaniel looked at her, realizing how deeply the situation had affected her. "You shouldn't have been caught in the crossfire. This was supposed to be a simple arrangement." Ava gave a small smile. It stopped being simple the moment feelings got involved. He reached out, tracing his fingers along her cheek. I didn't think I was capable of caring like this. You changed that. Ava looked into his eyes, the tension between them softening. You made me believe that not all powerful men are cruel. You protected me more than anyone ever has. Before he could respond, his phone buzzed. Julian's message appeared on the screen. Stephen just resigned from a board. Media running, Evan's confession. Crisis averted. Nathaniel exhaled, a weight lifting from his shoulders. It's done. Stephen's out. Ava's face lit up with relief. That means we can finally move on. Nathaniel pulled her closer, his voice gentle. Yes, but I don't just want to move on from the problems. I want to move forward with you. For real. Ava's eyes softened. Are you sure? No contracts, no conditions. He smiled. No contracts. Just us. Whatever that looks like. Ava leaned into him, and they shared a kiss, one that wasn't about maintaining appearances or fighting back against enemies. It was just them, finally free from the shadows that had threatened to consume them. As the city lights glimmered outside, they held onto each other, knowing that despite the chaos, they had found something real and worth fighting for. The following morning, the media was buzzing with the unexpected confession from Richard Evans. In a televised statement, he admitted to conspiring with Stephen Parker to fabricate the story about Ava and discredit Nathaniel's leadership. He revealed how Stephen promised him compensation and a fresh start if he could publicly ruin the Sinclair marriage. The fallout was immediate. News channels played the confession on repeat, dissecting every word. Public opinion swung firmly in favor of Nathaniel and Ava, with most commentators condemning Stephen's manipulation. In the penthouse, Nathaniel stood by the window, his phone buzzing with messages from board members expressing their support and relief. Ava joined him, her expression cautious. Is it really over? She asked softly. Nathaniel nodded. Stephen's resigned from the board, and Evan's confession cleared your name. The media has already shifted from criticizing us to condemning Stephen. The company's reputation is safe. Ava let out a breath she didn't know she was holding. I still can't believe how quickly it all collapsed. Nathaniel turned to face her. Power built on lies always collapses. Stephen underestimated us, and you. She smiled faintly. You didn't have to stand up for me like that. You risked everything. His gaze softened. I told you, I protect what's mine. And you're more than just a part of my image. You're important to me. Ava's heart pounded at his admission. She took a cautious step closer. When this started, I thought I could just play my part and walk away when it was over. But somewhere along the way, it changed. Nathaniel hesitated, unsure of how to put his feelings into words. You're not what I expected. You're stronger, smarter. You don't take any of my crap, and you keep surprising me. Ava couldn't help but laugh softly. That almost sounded like a compliment. He smirked. Don't let it go to your head. Just then, Julian called. Nathaniel put the phone on speaker. We got another update, Julian said, his tone lighter than it had been in weeks. The board just issued a formal statement supporting your leadership. They've cut all ties with Stephen and made it clear they stand behind you. Nathaniel exchanged a relieved glance with Ava. That's good news. There's more, Julian continued. Stephen left town. Apparently, he's headed to Europe to avoid the fallout. I doubt we'll hear from him anytime soon. Nathaniel's shoulders relaxed for the first time in days. Good riddance. After hanging up, he looked at Ava, his expression thoughtful. Now that the chaos is over, what do you want to do? Ava smiled, a hint of playfulness returning to her voice. Maybe actually get to know each other? Without the threat of scandals hanging over us. Nathaniel nodded, feeling an unfamiliar warmth spread through his chest. That sounds nice. I'm not used to things being nice. Ava raised an eyebrow. You'll have to work on that. Can't be ruthless all the time. He smirked. Old habits die hard, but I think I could make an exception for you. That evening, they decided to escape the penthouse for the first time in weeks. Nathaniel took Ava to a quiet, upscale restaurant where no one bothered them, and for the first time, they shared a meal without calculating the next move. Ava recounted stories from her childhood, how her aunt used to take her to art shows despite barely making rent. Nathaniel listened, intrigued by how much her past shaped the resilient woman standing before him. In turn, Nathaniel opened up about his upbringing, how his father's relentless pursuit of success left no room for warmth or vulnerability. He confessed that he never saw marriage as more than a transaction until Ava walked into his life. By the end of the dinner, they were laughing easily, the tension of the past weeks finally dissipating. On the drive back, Ava glanced at him, curiosity in her gaze. "What now?" she asked. Nathaniel thought for a moment. "I guess we figure out what this actually means. Us, without the pretense." Ava nodded. "I'd like that. To figure out together." He reached for her hand, holding it firmly but gently. "One step at a time." Ava smiled. One step at a time. Back at the penthouse, they sat on the balcony, the city stretching out before them. Nathaniel pulled Ava closer, his arm wrapped around her waist. For once, his mind wasn't occupied with mergers, scandals, or power plays. He just enjoyed the quiet moment, the feel of her head resting on his shoulder. Ava broke the silence. "I never thought I'd end up here with you." Nathaniel glanced down at her. "Neither did I, but now that you're here, I don't want you anywhere else." Ava looked up, her eyes reflecting the city lights. "You're not just saying that because it's convenient?" He leaned down, brushing his lips against hers. "I've never been one to chase convenience. I just know I'm not letting you go." The kiss that followed was softer, more real than any they'd shared before. It wasn't about appearances or proving something to the world. It was just them finally free to explore whatever was growing between them. And as the night stretched on, they both knew that this was the beginning of something neither of them had expected. But both of them wanted more than anything. The next morning, Nathaniel woke to the sound of his phone buzzing incessantly. Groggily, he picked it up and saw dozens of messages from Julian, each marked as urgent. "Call me ASAP. We have a problem." His heart sank. He glanced over at Ava, still sleeping peacefully beside him, unaware of the new storm brewing. He slipped out of bed and called Julian. "Talk," Nathaniel said, his voice low. Julian's tone was tense. Stephen made one last move before leaving. He leaked a series of emails to the media, fabricated ones, claiming that you bribed board members to keep your position after the marriage scandal. The story just broke, and it's gaining traction. Nathaniel swore under his breath. "What's the media saying?" "They're calling for a formal investigation into Sinclair Enterprises. Some board members are already fielding questions from reporters." Stephen must have planted these emails before he left. Nathaniel's mind raced. If the public believed he bribed the board, it could cripple his leadership, even with Stephen gone. He needed to act fast. Ava woke up to find Nathaniel pacing the living room, his face set in a grim expression. "What's wrong?" she asked, instantly alert. He hesitated, not wanting to drag her into yet another crisis. "Stephen leaked fake emails, claiming I bribed the board to secure my position after the marriage controversy. It's spreading fast." Ava's eyes widened. "But that's not true. Can't you just prove it?" Nathaniel looked at her, admiration mixed with frustration. "It's not that simple. Once a rumor catches fire, it doesn't matter if it's true or not. I need proof that the emails are fake before this spirals out of control." Ava thought for a moment. "What about the original server logs? If the emails are forged, there should be no trace of them in the company's records." Nathaniel paused, realizing she was right. "I'll get Julian to check that. If we can prove the emails never existed, we can turn this around." He called Julian and relayed the plan. "Check the server logs for any sign of those emails. If they were forged, there's no way they went through the official channels." Julian agreed, and they waited anxiously for updates. Ava paced the room, her anxiety palpable. Nathaniel reached out and pulled her into his arms. "We've made it through worse," he murmured. "We'll get through this, too." Ava looked up at him, her worry softening. "You're right. We will." A few hours later, Julian called back, his voice triumphant. "Got it. The emails never passed through the company's servers. We cross-referenced the timestamps with our logs. Nothing matches. They're complete forgeries. I've already sent the evidence to the PR team." Relief washed over Nathaniel. "Good. Set up a press conference. We'll address this head-on." Later that day, The Sinclair Enterprises press room was packed. Nathaniel stood at the podium, Ava by his side, as reporters fired questions. Nathaniel raised a hand for silence. I want to address the recent allegations directly. Claims have surfaced suggesting that I bribed board members to secure my position as CEO after my marriage. These allegations are entirely false. We have conducted a thorough internal investigation and found that the emails in question were never sent through our official servers. He gestured to the screen behind him, which displayed the technical analysis proving the emails were fabricated. The evidence speaks for itself. The emails are fake, planted by an individual seeking to discredit me and undermine the stability of Sinclair Enterprises. One reporter called out, "Do you know who was behind this?" Nathaniel's expression hardened. Yes, a former board member who recently resigned, Stephen Parker. His vendetta against me has led him to resort to lies and forgery. Legal actions are being pursued. The room buzzed with activity as the journalists took notes. Another reporter asked, "How has this affected your personal life, given the scrutiny of your marriage?" Ava stepped forward, her voice calm but firm. Nathaniel and I have faced challenges, both personal and professional. But through it all, we've chosen to stand by each other. Our marriage may not have started conventionally, but it's real. We won't be shaken by lies and deceit. Nathaniel looked at her, pride filling his gaze. As the press conference concluded, the reporters left, now focused on exposing Stephen's schemes rather than questioning Nathaniel's leadership. Back in the penthouse, Nathaniel poured 2 glasses of whiskey and handed one to Ava. To survival, he toasted. Ava smiled, and to us. They clinked glasses, and Nathaniel couldn't help but feel grateful for her presence. I never thought I'd find someone who could match my strength. You didn't just survive with me, you fought beside me. Ava leaned against him, her hand resting on his chest. I never wanted to be a burden. I wanted to stand on my own. But with you, I didn't have to do it alone. Nathaniel traced a finger along her jawline, his voice softer than usual. You've never been a burden. You make me want to be better, stronger, not just for the company, but for you. Ava's eyes shimmered with emotion. And you taught me that I'm not just someone to be saved. I can fight for myself and for you. They stood there, holding each other as the city lights flickered outside, knowing that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. But as the night settled in, Nathaniel knew that despite Stephen's defeat, not every shadow had disappeared. The world would continue to watch them, waiting for any sign of weakness. But as long as they stood united, nothing could tear them apart. The next morning, Nathaniel and Ava woke up to news articles celebrating their victory. Headlines praised Nathaniel's decisive leadership and commended Ava for standing by his side despite the adversity. Just as they started to relax, Julian called. "Better turn on the news," he said, his voice serious. Nathaniel switched on the TV. A live broadcast showed Richard Evans outside a courthouse, giving a statement to the press. "I was manipulated," Evans said. "Stephen Parker convinced me that Nathaniel Sinclair was corrupt, that he was using his marriage as a PR stunt to keep his position. I thought exposing him would clear my name. But Stephen used me to execute his own plan to take over Sinclair Enterprises." Nathaniel narrowed his eyes. He's trying to shift blame entirely to Stephen to save himself. Julian's voice came through the phone. Evans is playing the victim card. He's hoping the public will see him as a misguided pawn rather than an accomplice. Nathaniel's jaw tightened. He's not escaping the consequences. Make sure our lawyers push for his full accountability. A few hours later, Julian called again. Evans just posted a video on social media, claiming he was manipulated and apologizing. He's trying to gain public sympathy. Nathaniel watched the video, his anger barely contained. He's just trying to save his skin. Ava looked at Nathaniel, concern evident in her eyes. "What do we do now?" "We confront it head on," Nathaniel replied. "We're not letting him rewrite the narrative." That evening, Nathaniel arranged a live broadcast from the Sinclair Enterprises headquarters. Standing at the podium with Ava beside him, he addressed the cameras. "I want to address the recent claims made by Richard Evans. While it's true that Stephen Parker manipulated him, Evans willingly participated in the conspiracy to damage my reputation and harm my wife. Taking responsibility means owning your actions, not shifting blame when it's convenient. Ava spoke up, her voice calm but resolute. We won't let lies define our story. Our marriage may have started out of necessity, but what we've built together is real. We're committed to each other and to the truth. The response was immediate, with support flooding social media. The public saw through Evan's ploy, and sympathy for Nathaniel and Ava grew. Back at the penthouse, Nathaniel pulled Ava into his arms. "It's over," he whispered. Ava let out a sigh of relief. "I never thought I'd feel safe again after all this." Nathaniel kissed her forehead. "You are safe. I'll always protect you." Ava looked up, her eyes softening. "You taught me that not all powerful men are cruel. You show me that love doesn't have to hurt." Nathaniel tightened his embrace. "You showed me that caring doesn't make me weak. It makes me stronger. With you, I finally understand what it means to fight for something worth having." They kissed, slow and deep, knowing that this time, their battle was truly over. In the weeks that followed, Sinclair Enterprises thrived, and Stephen's disgrace left him ostracized from the business world. Evans faced legal repercussions, and the public narrative firmly sided with Nathaniel and Ava. One evening, as they sat on the penthouse balcony, Nathaniel took Ava's hand. "I never thought I'd find someone who makes me want to be better. You changed me." Ava smiled, resting her head on his shoulder. "And you taught me I don't have to do it all alone. We're stronger together." As they watched the sunset, they knew their journey, filled with challenges, betrayals, and unexpected love, had shaped them into partners not just in business, but in life.